pass this across?
Yes.
So, E, we're accepting
The plexiglass.
the plexiglass if available.
Great.
I'm gonna skip F because we had a counter to that. M, I just wanna make one clarification.
Wait, what happened with L?
I'm sorry, L, I apologize, L, that's where I need the clarification. So, we're not saying that they're not going to supervise, they're still going to supervise, right? We're not saying they're requesting an exclusion from supervision, they're requesting an exclusion from supervisory duties that aren't socially distanced.
Correct.
Okay, then we're good with that. M, we are good with as long as it is understood, and if we add this to this number 2, it would, either understood or added in writing, teachers are still responsible to get the information that was provided at the emergency meeting, even if they don't attend. Even, they still have to get the information. It wouldn't be an emergency meeting if it was information that wasn't appropriate to teachers to have knowledge of.
So are you suggesting that be written in or just a verbal, it's said on camera, we understand that?
It's fine if we just understand that
Okay.
teachers are still responsible for the information presented at any emergency meeting that they're not able to attend.
Let me just write this down then. Okay.
3, we're at this moment in time, we're saying no to this. What I would like to do is get some communication sometime this afternoon, maybe after we are off camera, and maybe contact Heather Price to see how the virtual evaluations work. So we can come back to that, but at this time.
Perhaps she even has something in writing?
It's the same program. There is nothing in writing. It's the IPIS format. Her
Right.
teachers are evaluated under the IPIS format. I'm not sure what your concerns related to that are. That's why I want you to have an opportunity to ask questions of why it should be different.
Well, I guess the concern that we talked about is, all right, those folks that are going to virtual, they know what they're getting into, they're making that decision to do virtual. This is, an emergency order that's requiring people to do it, so, they might know that this is not their forte, and we don't wanna see them slammed on their evaluation because.
But this isn't just for those people that would be going to virtual. You're suggesting that the e-learning platform or all of it.
Yeah. Yes.
So there was 2 things, obviously, we're open to speaking to Ms. Price more about, but there's 2 things I took away from the conversation with regards to this, and one is that, their curriculum is completely built, including the lesson plans. Like it's a program, I would imagine, much like, our kids who do credit retrieval. It's all online, the lessons are built, the curriculum's written, you assign stuff out of the program, the kids do it, they grade it. So that in and of itself is different. So it shouldn't surprise me that they evaluate them using the same rubric, because they did that to a lot of people for a long time until they realized that, media specialists are different than the classroom teacher. So that doesn't surprise me, so it would be interesting to see how she does it. The other thing, I don't know, and she would have to qualify this a little bit more, but because that's assigned, I can see where part of our rubric would work, but they're also.
Because what is this?
The curriculum, the lessons, everything's already there. And she also mentioned that their teachers, before they can teach virtual school, they have to be trained in the Florida Virtual School program, so they get specific training for that specific program for teaching specifically that way. And while we are going to be offering teacher professional development in the beginning, this e-learning thing, we're making it up as we go. And that's through no fault, I'm not blaming anybody for that, that's, thanks to our Commissioner of Education, and obviously the situation, because as somebody coined one of my favorite phrases now, pandemics aren't fair. think that, the place we're coming from is these are a bunch of teachers that, upended in March, did the best they could. They're coming back to a brand new school year. So many things are different. I believe that the majority of our teachers, and I would hope all of them, are going to give this as good of a go. But I feel like we're looking at two different categories of employees. One that are specifically trained for this purpose with a built-in curriculum and lesson plans, and one where it's like, hey, half your e-learning, half's in front of you. One day we could be online, and the next day we're not. So I just think, that's kind of where we're coming from with that piece.
Under remote instruction F, we are good with 1. And with M, we refer back to the language that we passed across. And then e-learning, this whole situation, as Ms. Skipper just said, is a total fluid situation. Things are happening every minute, as you said, some of this stuff is being created as we go. The old adage in schools, we're building the plane as we're barreling down the runway. I need to find out the applicability to being able to reduce this to writing before it's implemented. And it's gonna be implemented the first day of school. We're gonna have kids on e-learning platforms, day 1. So the fact that we're asking to have it reduced to writing and posted online prior to the implementation, like we just heard, it's happening. You know how difficult this has been. This has been extremely difficult to capture language for every X and O that happens in this situation. So I can't agree to that right now. Now, perhaps Leading and Learning and Student Services and Curriculum, all those folks combined, perhaps they have it all ready to go and read it, and I'll find that out. But right now, to me, that clause seems a little bit difficult to accept. So
But
we have to
you're
come
not
up.
rejecting.
Correct.
All right. All right, and then moving on
To your 1-pager?
yes.
Oh, that was your 1-pager.
That
To our 1-pager.
So, for the leave for C, we think that, this is a really fair way to get some teachers some extra days that might need it because of COVID. And we're not rejecting it, but we need to come up with some proposals or get some more information about what it looks like to work while you're quarantining, or while you're quarantining. So we think that, this seems really good, but we have to think more about some of the protections for working while you're on quarantine.
Keep in mind, you're still working while you're on quarantine. That doesn't have anything to do with taking leave. You're not taking leave if you're on quarantine and you're still healthy. You're still teaching remotely.
Right.
So that wouldn't even apply.
Well, I guess, but to us, it's related, so we just want to come up with some language or get, you said you were gonna have somebody here to talk about that?
So I thought it was e-learning, and that was Ms. Klein earlier
Okay.
today. So I believe I have answers to quarantine.
Well, for instance, we're getting at, okay, and I think Kyle was hitting on some of this earlier, does that mean the teacher is sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours while they're quarantining, or are they just checking in with the sub, getting the kids going on their assignment? What?
They're following the student's day, so it's back to the remote. They're no less than 3 hours. It's probably not going to be consecutive, it's going to be during the regularly scheduled time. There's gonna be breaks for activity periods, there's gonna be breaks for lunch, there's going to be breaks for recess, there's, potentially grade level meetings that are gonna occur that the teacher can work remote, or, beam in remotely to those grade level meetings.
So basically what you're saying is it shifts into remote, the language that
When
we
you're
have.
quarantining, you're gonna be instructing remotely, following the executive order.
Joe,
So if I'm.
microphone,
Yes,
yes.
So if I'm, quarantined and I'm teaching 3 blocks, and each of those blocks is an hour and a half, then I'm gonna be expected to be live for 4.5 hours.
You're expected to be live 30 minutes in each of those blocks. So you're
Anthony.
working a minimum of 3 hours, but you're live direct instruction at least 30 minutes in those blocks.
Okay, Dr. Green, so just to clear up a little confusion, first of all, last Thursday when you brought this up, it made it sound like these people had COVID, that's why we were a little bit like, that didn't make sense to us. Now moving till today, I'm not quite sure what you said, just match what Ms. Klein said this morning, because I asked Ms. Klein, so is it more like I'm uploading a video with about 30 minutes of instruction through each block, and then that person in the classroom is taking over everything else? And she said, no, you're in that classroom for almost 8 hours a day. So that's a little bit different than what you're saying. And one of the concerns is this: if I'm quarantined, more than likely I have my whole family quarantined with me. So that's kind of where we're coming at this issue and why it's kind of connected to the leave for us, because it's more than likely it's not going to be that teacher by themselves quarantined.
So a couple things. There's still an 8-hour day, and if you remember in all the provisions that we had in the fall, you're still responsible to respond to your administrator, you're still responsible for meetings outside of your 3 hours of time of direct instruction. You still have an 8-hour day, right? So, but you're not sitting in front of your computer for 8 hours. You're following the schedule of the students in school.
But I asked that exact question to Ms. Klein, and her interpretation was I was sitting in front of that computer for almost 8 hours, minus lunch, recess, and activity if I'm an elementary teacher. Do you see the... It's one thing, I will say this, it's one thing for me to be able to be available when Dr. Green calls. It's another thing for me to be sitting in front of a computer with a webcam on me for 8 hours with my whole family home with me.
So that's the second piece of this. Don't forget, there is within the FFCRA Act, there is expanded FMLA, which covers a different situation than a personal illness of a teacher. It is being able to take care of those family issues, so that is part of FFCRA expanded FMLA that is available to staff.
Well, but that's where an issue where I think it would benefit the district to be liberal on this policy and make it easier for people to take advantage of working from home. Because as we all know, if I, as a parent, decide that I'm gonna do that extended FMLA, I get the 10 days up front that's fully paid, and then I can go up to 12 weeks, of extended, which is 66%. But at the end of the day, the district's footing that bill because they do not get reimbursed.
Correct.
So if we created a policy where it was liberal, it made it, I'm not saying it should be so easy you work from home, you're not doing any work, but maybe there's an in-between where we encourage people to work from home if at all possible, because it's right, our students need us. I'm gonna miss the classroom more than, I don't wanna say more than anybody else, but I'll definitely miss the classroom this year. So there's definitely a sense that our students need us, but how can we make that policy where people wanna work from home instead of, you know what, I can take that 66%, I don't get my taxes taken out, so that's a full check. And at the end of the day, BPS is on the hook for that either way because they don't get reimbursed.
The other thing I wanted to respond to is your person who tested positive and is still working. We have had several instances so far this summer of people who have tested positive but are asymptomatic. They don't want to not work, they want to work. They're not sick. They've tested positive, but they are asymptomatic and they're not sick, such as Mr. Palucci keeps saying students are traditionally more often asymptomatic than other people. They don't even know. So for some reason, our employees have had to go get tested. they have come back positive for whatever reason, they've showed no signs or symptoms of it, they don't want to be off of work, they want to continue working, and we, because of the rules and the guidance, are not allowing them to come onto the workplace, and their work assignment fits a virtual work assignment. Not all of our employees' assignments fit a virtual work assignment, so that was the third piece of your conversation.
That makes me, a little uncomfortable. I understand what you're saying, but I certainly never want to make an employee feel, or a principal feel empowered to make them work from home if they have
I agree.
COVID-19.
Absolutely agree, which
Okay.
is where the COVID-19 personal illness.
All right, so I think what it sounds like, you know, we need to craft some proposals for what it looks like to work while quarantining. And I mean, who should we be asking questions to about that? Is that you, Dr. Thetti? You know, if we need more information as we're crafting those.
Yeah, I don't either, but if you'll start with me,
Okay.
that would help.
Okay. All right.
And if,
Go
I'm
ahead, Don.
sorry, Anthony, I just wanna highlight the point. If we can make it to a place where people wanna work from home, then it benefits everybody involved. It benefits the students, but it also benefits the district. Because if I test positive for COVID and I'm asymptomatic, you are 100% correct. I don't have to work from home. There's all these provisions provided to me that the board's gonna pay for anyways. So how could we, I think you understand what I'm saying, Dr.
Except you do have to work from home. You do, if you're going to work, it has to be from home, if you have tested positive.
Yes,
for
but
a period of time.
if I decide not to work for at least 80 hours, FFCRA is gonna pay that, which essentially means the district will pay that.
All right, moving on to, safe environments E. What your E, which was our F, we wanted you to consider our new proposal, which asks about the, assistant superintendent of facility services or appropriate designee to review those plans. We don't feel that we wanna put a building representative in a place where, you know, they're the ones who have to tell teacher, you need to get rid of that table, you know?
Well, I don't think we would expect the building rep to tell the teacher that. I think the collaboration on the possible revisions is something that can happen right then and right there and quickly. If you are relying on someone who has 85 schools and 9,000 classrooms to assess if there are issues, you've got a principal and a building rep in every single school that are working together throughout the year that could answer the questions and come up with ideas that day.
Well, we also don't think that necessarily, building reps would have the knowledge, you know, Joe's a building rep, he's like, I don't know how to make these rooms safer. So, I mean, when Jane was in here, she was explaining she's got cohorts working together or something to figure out better plans. I mean, is it more appropriate to have the directors looking at these plans, maybe than Ms. Ann? So we'd like you to keep considering our proposal, or maybe giving us another counter that makes more sense, or is more practical or logistically practical to implement. The whole goal here is, we understand that we might not be getting 6 feet, but maybe we can get a little more room in these classes if we have the right person looking at the layout. Okay. What'd you say?
We will look.
Oh, okay. And then moving on to M, we will accept your M. And moving on to the retirement incentive, we will accept that, to relook at that at 6-day count. We're good with the date change, which was what we suggested. I don't think, did you respond to the change in the, substitute pay?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the back. I didn't turn my sheet over, cause you added that.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
we're okay with that.
Okay,
We're
excellent.
okay with that. That was something you added, it wasn't
Yes,
something
yes,
I wrote.
I told you I was gonna leave something off with all these papers. So, I mean, I think we've made a tremendous amount of progress today, really.
By noon tomorrow we'll be done.
Well, I just,
You can't bring anything more, you're done bringing stuff.
I was almost thinking, did we blocked off Friday too?
We did block off Friday.
Well, instead of meeting tomorrow, because that way we can wait till the board makes a decision on masks, to see if we need to adjust that language as well, and then get it all done on Friday,
So Friday, 8 o'clock.
Friday 8 o'clock. Rick, what did you have plans?
That's the day off.
Rick is not your best friend.
But, we're really pleased with the progress we made,
Right, did you hear that?
Yeah.
8:30.
Just-
I'm gonna hold them to it.
We did.
just agree to all our
AM.
proposals, it would be good. All right.
Maybe tomorrow, just you and I can touch base on really what is outstanding.
Yeah, that's
So
a
leave
good
is
idea.
outstanding, yeah, evaluations are outstanding, e-learning platforms are outstanding.
Yeah, and just to be clear for everybody watching, I mean, just a few items within those sections, we've really agreed to